Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Brett's Brain. Today we're going to talk about how entrepreneurs should decide whether or not to do an accelerator, incubator, or one of the other many startup programs that are currently available for founders. Hey, I'm Brett Brohl, former entrepreneur, current venture capitalist. Thanks so much for checking out the channel. Make sure you like, subscribe, share, do all those things, and then ask us questions. Our goal is to help entrepreneurs succeed. Okay. There has been an incredible proliferation of startup support organizations and startup programs in the world over the last 20, 15 years or so. And it's awesome. It's a great thing for entrepreneurs to have. Optionality is always good. But now there are so many of them, how do you tell the difference? And one thing I know for sure is that not all startup programs are created equal. And unfortunately, despite what I believe are best intentions, sometimes founders don't always get value out of these programs. And so what should you be looking for when you're trying to make a decision on whether or not to do a program? First of all, let's talk about the landscape a little bit. So in general, there's an accelerator, and that name gets thrown around a little bit too much. The way I think about an accelerator is that they invest capital, so there's an investment portion to it. They take equity, they provide mentorship. So if one of the programs isn't doing all three of those things, then they're probably not really an accelerator. Maybe it's an incubator where they often do the mentorship portion of it, but they might not always provide investment dollars. Or maybe in your town or wherever you're living in your city, there's an entrepreneurial support organization that might help with space to work out of. Or maybe they help with a showcase event or a pitch night. And that's different from an incubator or an accelerator also. And so all of these things, all of this optionality is great for founders. And in general, I encourage founders to apply and to try to see what they can get into and what options they have to, display their brand, to show what they're building. When it comes to accelerators and any other thing that you think about equity, when equity is involved, you got to take that decision very seriously. Because once you give out equity in your company, you can never get it back. And not all accelerators are created equally. There's a couple of big brands out there, the Y Combinators, the Techstars, that are pretty well regarded. And then there's a lot of others that also participate and can provide great value. But with any of these, the question you should be asking as a founder, it doesn't matter if it's the most well-known brand or one that nobody's ever heard of, is how much equity am I giving up and how much value do I think I'm going to get in return? And one thing I can tell you is that the vast majority of the time, startups don't get the value out of the cash investment from the program. That's not where most of it comes from. So you shouldn't be really making your decision based on, they're going to give me $50,000 in exchange for this, 3% or 5% or whatever it is. The cash value isn't the best reason to do the program. Now, there are probably some, long tail situations where you really need the cash and this is your only option to get cash. And then, that should play into the decision. And honestly, it should play into the decision for all founders. But I'd be thinking more about what connections does this program have? What mentors are participating in this program? What does the leadership team of this specific program look like? Who's the managing director? Who's the program manager? Who do they know? What's their background? What value do they bring to the table? How can they help your company? And in aggregate, when you think about all these things an accelerator brings, the mentors, the connectivity, the leadership, and the dollars, then you make a decision of all of that weighted together. What's that worth from an equity perspective? If I'm giving up 6% of my company, will that accelerator drive 10, 12, 18, 20% of value over the life of my startup? Do they continue to help and plug in post-program? Are they going to be around for 10 years and still answer my calls and help with connections when I'm 5 years out and I really want to meet this new company and they know that company? Are they going to be able to help? Take all of those things into consideration. One thing when I was helping run Techstars programs that I always said to founders that were thinking about coming in was I would tell them, don't do this for the money that we invest directly. If that's the only reason you're doing it, it's probably not the right reason. If you think we're going to drive value through all the other things, then that's a great reason to do it. It could be the connections we have to other investors to help you raise that next round of capital. That's really valuable. There's a lot of founders out there that don't have that network, and these established programs have networks with other investors. And so take that into consideration. And so when you're talking to an accelerator program, an equity program, you need to do that math of how much are they going to take and how much am I going to get out? And you need to be fairly confident that you're going to get more value out of the program than the equity you give up. Talk to other founders that have gone through the programs. Ask what value did they get? Where did they see most of the value out in the program? Make sure that you're confident that, hey, we think we're going to get a ton of value in the biz dev side of for our startup through the mentorship network. Talk to other founders. Did they get that? Do your research just like any other equity event. If an investor wants to invest in your company, you're going to probably ask to talk to one of the other founders they've invested in. Same thing with an accelerator. Ask to another founder that's gone through it and see what they think. It's a great thing to do. Okay, let's move down and talk about the incubators and other opportunities within your city or nationally. Incubators are great. There's a lot at universities. There's a lot in just city programs. And most of the time, these don't take equity. They provide mentorship and sometimes space and sometimes opportunities to get on stage and present at a demo day. Honestly, there's not a lot of downside with those. The biggest downside is your time and making sure that you set expectations well with both sides. So why are you going to do it? Because your time is valuable. The most valuable thing any startup has is the founder's time. So how much time and effort do you need to put into this program? And in some cases, it's very little. It's ad hoc. You use whatever you need. And so understand what your time commitment's going to be and what value you might get out of it is. And tends to be a little bit easier decision because most of those organizations really can help with a couple of introductions, and it doesn't take much to really make your effort worthwhile in those spaces or in those situations. But same thing. But the key to going into incubator is understand what you want to get out of it. Be upfront with the leadership of that incubator. Hey, I want to get this, this, and this out of it. And then work against it. Just like anything else in the startup world, the more you put into it as a founder, the more you're going to get out of it. And then the final thing is presentations, pitch days, all of those types of things. For early stage founders, I think it's great to take as many of those opportunities as you possibly can. When you're really early on in your journey, I think it's great practice. I think it's great for you to really work on your story, your storytelling, how to present the problem that you're solving and how you're solving it, how to present yourself. I think these are great forcing functions. These opportunities of pitch days and getting up on stage or demo days or whatever it is are great opportunities to force yourself to put that type of story together. And, if you're not doing them, you tend to let that, leave it to the side because you have so many other important things to do. And so I encourage early stage founders to take as many of those opportunities as possible and get a bunch of feedback and put real work into putting your presentation together. Again, if you're not going to take it seriously or put the time into it, then you shouldn't do it because you might make yourself look bad. So if you accept those opportunities, put the time in and get the most out of it as you possibly can, even if it's not investment. There's value just in forcing yourself to step out of your business to think about what your story is versus working in your business for a brief period of time. All right, talked about a lot today. In general, all of these opportunities for entrepreneurs are phenomenal. It's a great time to be an entrepreneur. There's a lot of support for you out there. Take advantage of it, but make sure you do the math of what am I going to give up and how much am I going to get in return? And make sure that the equation and the end game makes sense for you. Do it. Prepare, put as much as you can into it, and that's how you're going to get the most out of it. All right. If you like this, make sure you share, like, subscribe, and ask us questions. We'd love to answer them in the future.